The phone rang at 2:47 in the morning. When you're 72 years old, a call at that hour means one thing: somebody you love is in trouble or gone from this world. My hands shook as I reached for my cell phone on the nightstand, knocking over my reading glasses. "Mrs. Washington?" A woman's voice, clinical and tired. "This is Mercy General Hospital. Your daughter Naya has been admitted. She fell down the stairs at her home. You're listed as her emergency contact." Fell down the stairs. Those 4 words would haunt me for weeks to come. I was dressed and in my car within 10 minutes, my heart hammering against my ribs like it was trying to escape my chest. The drive to Mercy General took 20 minutes, but it felt like 20 hours. I prayed the whole way there. "Lord, please let my baby be okay. Please let this be nothing serious." I'd already buried my husband 5 years ago. I couldn't bury my child. The emergency room smelled like antiseptic and fear. A young nurse with kind eyes led me through automatic doors that whooshed open like the mouth of some great beast. Room 847. My daughter's room. I could hear machines beeping before I even turned the corner. Nothing could have prepared me for what I saw. Naya lay in that hospital bed looking like she'd been in a war. Her left eye was swollen shut, purple and angry. Her bottom lip was split open, stitched up with black thread that made me think of spiders. Bruises covered her arms, not the kind you get from a fall, but the kind that come from fingers gripping too hard, from hands that hurt instead of hold. A cast covered her right wrist. "Oh, baby," I whispered, and tears just streamed down my face without permission. Her good eye opened, and when she saw me, she started crying too. "Mama," she said through that torn lip, and it came out all garbled and broken. That's when I noticed him. Terrence, my son-in-law. He sat in the corner chair like he owned the place, his face a mask of concern that I'd seen him wear 1,000 times at family dinners, at church, at our Christmas gatherings. He stood up when I came in, all 6 feet 2 inches of him, wearing his worry like a costume. "Thank God you're here, Mama Odessa," he said, and he even had tears in his eyes. "It happened so fast. She was carrying laundry down the stairs and she missed a step. I tried to catch her, but..." His voice broke. Academy Award-winning performance. I looked at my daughter. She was staring at him with her one good eye, and the fear in that eye made my blood run cold. "Can you give us a minute?" I asked Terrence, keeping my voice steady, though everything in me wanted to scream. "I need to talk to my daughter, mother to daughter." He hesitated, actually hesitated, like he was afraid to leave us alone. "Of course," he finally said. "I'll go get some coffee. Nia, baby, I'll be right back." He kissed her forehead, and I saw her flinch. Saw it clear as day. The moment the door closed behind him, Nia grabbed my hand with her good one. Her grip was weak, but desperate. "Mama," she whispered. "He pushed me." The world tilted sideways. I had to grip the bed rail to stay standing. "What?" "He pushed me down the stairs." The words came out in a rush now, like she'd been holding them back with a dam and the dam just broke. "I found them, Mama. I found him and Simone." "Simone? Your sister-in-law Simone? Terrence's brother's wife?" She nodded, and fresh tears spilled down her bruised face. "In our bed, Mama. In the bed I sleep in. I came home early from work because I forgot my laptop, and there they were." I started screaming. I told him I was leaving, that I was taking the kids and leaving. He got so angry, Mama. His face, I've never seen him look like that. Like he hated me. When I tried to walk past him with my suitcase, he shoved me so hard. I fell backward down the stairs. All I remember is falling and the pain, and then waking up here. My mind was racing. Simone, petite, always smiling Simone, who brought sweet potato pies to Thanksgiving and sang in the church choir, who was married to Terrence's younger brother, Calvin, who had 2 babies of her own at home. "Where are the kids?" I asked. Nia's children, my grandbabies, 8-year-old Zara and 5-year-old Deshawn. At his mother's house. He called her while the ambulance was coming, told her I fell and he needed someone to watch them. Have you told the doctors? She shook her head, wincing at the movement. He hasn't left my side since I woke up. He keeps saying how much he loves me, how scared he was, how grateful he is that I'm okay. The nurses think he's husband of the year. Every time I try to say something, he squeezes my hand so hard. She held up her unbroken hand, and I could see the red marks on her wrist, shaped like fingers. Before we continue, please tell us where you're watching from so we know how far our stories reach, and subscribe to the channel to help us grow. I sat down in the chair Terrence had vacated, my mind working through everything she'd told me. 33 years I'd been a social worker for the Department of Children and Family Services before I retired. 33 years of seeing women just like my daughter, trapped and scared and broken. I knew what needed to happen next. "Listen to me, baby," I said, leaning close. "I need you to trust me. Can you do that?" She nodded. "When the doctors come in for rounds, I need you to ask to speak to them privately. Tell them you need to talk about your medical history, something personal. They'll make him leave. Once he's gone, you tell them everything." "They're mandatory reporters. They'll have to call the police and document this as domestic violence. Do you understand?" "He'll be so angry, Mama. You don't know what he's capable of." "That's exactly why we're doing this now. While you're safe in this hospital with security guards and nurses and me." I squeezed her hand gently. "And when you get out of here, you and those babies are coming home with me. Not back to that house. Not ever." She closed her good eye, fresh tears leaking out. "I should have seen it. There were signs, Mama. He's been so distant lately. All those late nights at work, all those times he snapped at me for no reason. How could I be so stupid?" "You are not stupid. You trusted your husband. That's what you're supposed to do in a marriage. He's the one who broke that trust. He's the one who betrayed you and hurt you and—" I couldn't finish. The rage building in my chest was too big for words. "There's more," Nia whispered. When I was on the stairs after he pushed me right before I blacked out, I heard him on the phone. He was calling someone. He said, "It's done. She knows everything. We need to talk about next steps." "Mama, I think this wasn't just about me catching them. I think they were planning something. Something worse." A chill ran down my spine that had nothing to do with the hospital air conditioning. The door opened. Terrence walked in with 2 cups of coffee, that concerned husband mask back in place. "How's our girl doing?" he asked, all warmth and care. I stood up, putting myself between him and my daughter's bed. "The nurse said the doctor will be doing rounds soon. You should go home, get some rest. I'll stay with Nia." "Oh, I couldn't leave her," he said, but his eyes were cold and calculating behind that fake smile. "She needs me here." "Mama," Nia said from the bed, her voice stronger than it had been moments before. "Could you hand me that water?" I turned to reach for the water pitcher on the bedside table. That's when I saw it. The clipboard hanging at the foot of her bed with all her medical information, the consent forms, the papers documenting her injuries. And there, at the bottom of the main form, in black ink, Terrence Mitchell's signature. He'd signed as her spouse, giving consent for her treatment, documenting the accident. But it was what was written in the notes section that made my blood freeze. In Terrence's handwriting, patient fell carrying laundry. Approximately 15 stairs, loss of consciousness for roughly 2 minutes, no prior history of falling or balance issues. He'd documented his lie, made it official, made it medical record. I looked at that signature, at those carefully constructed lies, and something in me shifted. This wasn't just about my daughter anymore. This was about a man who'd planned his deception so carefully, that he'd turned attempted murder into a clumsy accident with nothing more than a pen and a signature. I handed Nia her water, my hand steady now. My mind was already 3 steps ahead, planning, calculating, remembering every trick I'd learned in 3 decades of protecting vulnerable people. "You know what, Terrence?" I said, my voice sweet as honey. "You're right. Nia needs her husband here. I'm going to head home, get some rest." "I'll come back in the morning." He looked relieved. "That's probably best, Mama Odessa. I'll take good care of her." I kissed my daughter's forehead, and as I did, I whispered so softly only she could hear, "Play along. I'm going to fix this." I left that hospital room, walked through those automatic doors, and got into my car. But I didn't go home. I drove straight to my house, went into my office, and pulled out my old work laptop. It still had access to databases, to resources, to people who owed me favors from decades of cases and collaboration. I'd retired, but my credentials were still active for another 6 months. I spent the next 4 hours digging into Terrence Mitchell's life, bank records. I had a friend in financial services who owed me after I'd helped her daughter in a custody case. Phone records, another favor called in. Social media, that was easy. People document their whole lives online now. What I found made me physically sick. Terrence and Simone had been communicating for 8 months. Hundreds of texts, hotel receipts, charged to credit cards that Nia didn't know existed. But worse than the affair was what else I discovered. Life insurance. Terrence had taken out a policy on Nia 6 months ago. $500,000. She'd never mentioned signing anything, which meant he'd probably forged her signature. The beneficiary? Terrence Mitchell. There were also emails. Encrypted, but my friend's son was a tech genius who'd helped law enforcement with several of my cases. He owed me big time. The emails between Terrence and Simone weren't just love notes. They were planning notes. "Once she's gone, we can be together. The house is in both our names, but with her life insurance, make it look accidental. Stairs are perfect. People fall all the time. We'll wait a few months after, then Calvin and I will divorce. You'll be a widower. No one will question it." They'd planned this. They'd planned to kill my daughter, cash in on her life insurance, and run off together while Nia's children were left without a mother and Calvin was left without a wife. The fall wasn't anger. It wasn't a heat-of-the-moment shove. It was murder, and Nia had survived. I sat back in my office chair as the sun started to come up outside my window, casting orange light across my desk. On my computer screen were screenshots, bank records, emails, text messages. Evidence. A mountain of evidence. Terrence Mitchell thought he was smart. Thought he'd gotten away with it. Thought my daughter would stay quiet, too scared and hurt to say anything. He didn't know who I was, what I was capable of, what I'd done for 33 years to protect people who couldn't protect themselves. And he definitely didn't know that you don't ever hurt an Odessa Washington's child and expect to walk away from it. I picked up my phone and made 3 calls. The first was to my nephew, Jerome, who was a detective with the police department. The second was to my lawyer, Glenda Hayes, who I'd known since we were both young women fighting for justice in a system that didn't always want to give it. The third was to Pastor Franklin at Greater Hope Baptist, because what I was about to do, I was going to need God's forgiveness for it. When I finished those calls, I looked at the evidence one more time, then I printed everything, every page, every email, every text message, every bank record. I made 3 copies, one for the police, one for my lawyer, and one for me, because I was going to need it for what came next. I was going to destroy Terrence Mitchell, not with violence, not with anger, with the truth. And the truth, as Pastor Franklin always said, would set us free. I just had to make sure it locked Terrence up first. Jerome arrived at my house at 7 a.m, still in his detective's badge and tie from the night shift. He'd always been a good boy. Well, he was 45 now, but he'd always be my baby sister's boy to me. He sat at my kitchen table, going through the printed evidence with those sharp eyes that had solved dozens of cases over his 20 years on the force. "Auntie O," he said, using the nickname he'd called me since he was 3 years old. This is attempted murder, premeditated, conspiracy, insurance fraud. We're talking serious prison time here." "I know what we're talking about," I said, pouring him coffee. "Question is, what can we do about it? That man is sitting in my daughter's hospital room right now, playing the devoted husband, and everyone believes him." Jerome took a sip of coffee, his jaw tight. "Here's the problem. These emails. How did you get them?" I didn't answer, just looked at him over my own coffee cup. "Right," he said. "So they might not be admissible in court. Defense attorney could argue illegal search and seizure, fruit of the poisonous tree, all that. But," he held up a finger, "if we can get a warrant based on Nia's statement to the doctors, then we can legally access his communications. Everything you found? It becomes corroborating evidence that helps us know where to look. So we need Nia to talk to the doctors first." "Yes, and she needs to do it soon, before he pressures her into leaving the hospital or changes the story." Jerome gathered the papers into neat stacks. "I'll take this to my lieutenant. We'll need to coordinate with the domestic violence unit. They'll send specially trained officers to take her statement. But Auntie O," he looked at me seriously, "you need to let us handle this. I know you. I know how you get when someone hurts family. You can't go after this man yourself." I smiled at him, that sweet grandmother smile I'd perfected over the years. "Of course, baby. I'm just a tired old lady who wants her daughter safe." He didn't believe me for a second. "Auntie O, don't you worry about me. You just make sure that man sees the inside of a jail cell." After Jerome left, I got dressed in what my late husband used to call my business armor. A navy blue suit, low heels, my good pearls. The outfit I wore when I had to face down hostile caseworkers, corrupt officials, or anyone else who stood between me and justice for a child. I drove back to Mercy General, but I didn't go straight to Nia's room. First, I stopped at the nurse's station. "Excuse me," I said to the nurse sitting there, a young woman with her hair in neat braids. "I'm Odessa Washington. My daughter Nia Mitchell is in room 847. I was wondering if I could speak to her primary doctor." The nurse smiled kindly. "Dr. Okafor is making rounds now. She should be by your daughter's room within the hour." "Perfect. Thank you, sweetheart." I started to turn away, then stopped as if something just occurred to me. "You know, I was so upset last night when I got here, I didn't even think to ask. How exactly does someone get injured falling downstairs? Like, what's typical for that kind of accident?" The nurse's expression shifted slightly. She glanced around, then lowered her voice. "Mrs. Washington, falls downstairs usually result in injuries to the back and buttocks, maybe the back of the head if they fall backward. Sometimes wrist fractures from trying to catch yourself." She paused. "Your daughter's injuries, frontal facial trauma, defensive wounds on her forearms, finger-shaped bruises, those aren't really consistent with a fall. They're more consistent with—" She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. "I see," I said quietly. "Thank you for being honest with me." "I documented my concerns in her chart," the nurse said. "Dr. Okafor will follow up. We see a lot of domestic violence cases here, Mrs. Washington. We know what to look for." I squeezed her hand. "You're doing good work. Keep doing it." When I got to Nia's room, Terrence was gone. My daughter was awake, staring at the ceiling. "Where is he?" I asked. His mother called. "Apparently Deshawn has been asking for me, crying. Terrence went to check on them. He'll be back soon." She turned her head to look at me. Did you find anything?" I pulled a chair close to her bed. "Baby, I found everything. And it's worse than you think. But that's a conversation for later. Right now, We need to focus on getting you safe. The doctor is coming soon. When she does, you tell her everything. Don't hold back. Don't try to protect him. You tell her the truth, you let them document it, and you let the police handle the rest. Can you do that? I'm scared, Mama. I know. But scared is better than dead. And baby, if you'd hit your head just a little bit different on those stairs. I couldn't finish. The thought of losing her made my chest ache. Before we continue, if this story resonates with you, please hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss our next story. Dr. Okafor arrived 20 minutes later, a tall, elegant woman with kind eyes and an air of no-nonsense competence that I appreciated immediately. Good morning, Nia, Mrs. Washington, she nodded to both of us. I wanted to check your vitals and see how you're feeling today. Any increased pain, dizziness, nausea? Actually, doctor, I said, standing up, could I speak with you outside for just a moment? In the hallway, I kept my voice low. My daughter needs to speak with you privately about how she got these injuries, without her husband present. It's urgent. Dr. Okafor's expression didn't change, but something shifted in her eyes. Understanding. I see. I'll have security posted outside the room. Standard procedure for sensitive conversations. Your daughter has the right to speak with her medical team privately. 20 minutes later, 2 security guards stood outside Nia's room while Dr. Okafor took my daughter's statement. I sat in the waiting room, my hands folded in my lap, praying for strength, praying for justice, praying that God would forgive me for what I was planning to do next. Because Jerome was wrong. I wasn't going to let the system handle this alone. I'd seen too many cases fall apart, too many abusers walk free on technicalities, too many victims failed by a system that meant well but moved too slowly. I was going to make sure Terrence Mitchell and Simone paid for what they'd done, and I was going to do it in a way that made it impossible for them to wriggle free. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. This is Glenda, reviewed materials. Call me ASAP. I stepped outside the hospital to make the call. Odessa! Glenda's voice was sharp, efficient. She'd been a civil rights attorney for 40 years, and she didn't waste words. What you've uncovered is criminal conspiracy to commit murder, insurance fraud, and attempted homicide, but I'm concerned about how you obtained this information. Can we use it? Not directly in a criminal trial, but we can use it to know where to look, and we can absolutely use it in a civil case. I'm thinking we file for an emergency protective order immediately, sue for divorce with full custody, and go after both Terrence and Simone in a civil suit for intentional infliction of emotional distress and attempted murder. Even if the criminal case has issues, we can destroy them financially and legally. Do it, I said. All of it. There's something else, Glenda said. I did some digging on Simone. She and Calvin have been having marital problems for over a year. He filed for separation 4 months ago, but then withdrew it. I'm wondering if Calvin knows something. That thought had occurred to me, too. You think he knows about the affair? I think we should find out. If he does, he might be willing to testify. If he doesn't, he deserves to know what his wife has been planning. After I hung up with Glenda, I stood in the hospital parking lot, thinking. Calvin Mitchell, Terrence's younger brother. A gentle man who worked as a mechanic, coached Little League, sang in the church choir. He and Simone had twin 4-year-old daughters. I pulled out my phone and looked up his shop. Mitchell's Auto Repair over on West Side, open until 6. I checked my watch. 10:30 a.m. I had time. But first, I needed to check on Nia. When I got back to her room, Dr. Okafor was just leaving. She gave me a small nod. The police are on their way. Domestic violence unit. They'll be here within the hour to take an official statement and photograph the injuries. Thank you, doctor. Inside, Nia was crying. But they were different tears than before. These were tears of relief, of finally being believed, of not having to carry the lie anymore. I told them everything, Mama. Everything. The affair, the push, The phone call I overheard. Dr. Okafor said my injuries are definitely consistent with assault, not a fall. She's documenting it all. I held her hand. Good girl. Now the police are coming. You're going to have to tell the story again. It's going to be hard. But you're doing the right thing. Where are you going? She asked as I picked up my purse. To have a conversation with your brother-in-law. If Simone and Terrence are planning to be together, Calvin deserves to know what his wife has been up to. Mama, be careful. If Terrence finds out, let me worry about Terrence. I kissed her forehead. You just focus on getting better. And when they ask you if you want to press charges, you say yes. You say yes to everything. Protective order, charges, all of it. Understand? She nodded. I left the hospital and drove across town to Mitchell's Auto Repair. It was a small shop, clean and well organized, with 2 bays and a small office. I found Calvin under the hood of a Honda Civic, his hands black with grease. Calvin? I called out. He looked up, surprised. Mrs. Washington? What are you doing here? Is everything okay? I heard about Nia. Terrence said she fell. Can we talk? I interrupted. Privately? Something in my tone made him straighten up immediately. He wiped his hands on a rag and led me into the small office, closing the door. What's going on? I didn't sugarcoat it, didn't ease into it, just laid it out plain. Nia didn't fall down the stairs. Terrence pushed her. She caught him in bed with Simone. The color drained from Calvin's face. He sat down heavily in the desk chair, like his legs couldn't hold him anymore. What? They've been having an affair for 8 months. And Calvin... I pulled out copies of some of the emails, the ones that didn't reveal how I'd obtained them. They were planning to kill my daughter for her life insurance money. They were planning to be together after you and Nia were out of the picture. He read the emails, his hands shaking. I watched emotions play across his face. Shock, hurt, anger, devastation. When he looked up at me, there were tears in his eyes. My Simone, my wife, she was planning to murder Nia, to leave me and our girls. I'm sorry, Calvin, I know this is a lot. I knew something was wrong, he said, his voice breaking. She's been so distant, so cold. All those times she said she was visiting her sister, or at book club, or running errands. She was with him, with my brother. He stood up suddenly, knocking the chair backward. I'm going to kill him. I'm going to kill both of them. No, I said firmly, standing up to face him. No, you're not. Because that's what they want. They want everyone else to lose control while they play innocent. We're going to be smarter than that. How? What do we even do with this? We let the law handle Terrence. The police are at the hospital right now taking Nia's statement. He'll be arrested for attempted murder. But Simone... I looked at him carefully. Simone might try to claim she didn't know about the plan to kill Nia. She might try to say it was all Terrence. We need to make sure she can't run from this. How? Does she know that you know? About any of this? He shook his head. I've been at work all morning. She thinks I'm clueless. Good. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to go home tonight like everything is normal. You're going to tell her that Terrence called you, that Nia is doing better, that she'll be released from the hospital in a day or 2. You're going to watch how she reacts. If she's nervous, if she tries to contact Terrence, if she does anything suspicious, you document it. You record it if you can. Can you do that? He was quiet for a long moment, staring at the emails in his hands. She's the mother of my children, he finally said. I loved her. I still... His voice broke. How do I look at her knowing she was going to help kill someone? That she was planning to leave our babies? The same way I looked at Terrence in that hospital room, I said quietly. You put on a mask. You play the role. And you do what needs to be done to protect the people who matter. Your daughters matter, Calvin. They deserve to know the truth about their mother. and they deserve better than to grow up watching their father let someone who planned murder walk free. He nodded slowly. Okay, I'll do it. But Mrs. Washington, what are you planning? I smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. I'm planning to make sure everyone knows exactly who Terrence Mitchell and Simone Mitchell really are. I'm planning to expose them in front of everyone they know, everyone they've lied to. I want them to feel the shame and humiliation that they tried to inflict on Nia. I want them destroyed. How? Leave that to me. You just play your part. And Calvin? I put a hand on his arm. I'm sorry you're going through this. You're a good man. You deserve better. He wiped his eyes. Do they know anything? Not yet. But they will. And when they do, you make sure they know their daddy stood up for what was right. That their daddy protected people. That's what they'll remember. I left Calvin sitting in that office, staring at those emails like they were written in a language he couldn't quite understand. I knew that feeling. The feeling of your whole world shifting, of discovering that someone you loved was capable of evil you couldn't have imagined. But I didn't have time to dwell on feelings. I had work to do. My next stop was Greater Hope Baptist Church. Pastor Franklin was in his office, reviewing his sermon notes for Sunday service. Sister Odessa, he said, standing up to greet me. I've been praying for Nia all morning. How is she? I told him everything, the whole story. When I finished, he sat back in his chair, his face grave. That boy was just here 2 weeks ago, he said quietly. Terrence. He volunteered to help with the youth ministry. Shook my hand and called me pastor. Looked me right in the eye and lied. That's what I need to talk to you about, Pastor. Sunday service. I need you to do something for me. He listened as I explained my plan. When I finished, he was quiet for a long time. Sister Odessa, he finally said, what you're asking, it's not exactly turning the other cheek. No, sir, it's not. It's, be sure your sins will find you out. It's, the truth will set you free. It's making sure that when my daughter walks out of that hospital, she doesn't have to hide in shame while her attacker walks free in the light. Pastor, I've turned plenty of cheeks in my 72 years. I've forgiven people who didn't deserve it and shown mercy to folks who never showed it to me. But this? I looked him in the eye. This is about protecting my child and making sure those two never have the chance to hurt anyone else. That's not vengeance. That's justice. Pastor Franklin studied me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. All right, Sister Odessa. I'll do what you're asking. But I'm praying for all of us, because what you're about to do is going to shake this whole community. Good, I said. It needs to be shaken. I drove home as the sun was setting, painting the sky orange and purple. My phone rang. It was Jerome. Auntie O, we arrested him. Terrence Mitchell is in custody. He's being charged with attempted murder, domestic violence, and insurance fraud. His bail hearing is set for tomorrow morning. Relief washed over me so strong I had to pull over to the side of the road. Thank you, Jerome. Thank you. There's something else. We executed a search warrant on his house and his phone. Found everything you told us about. The texts, the emails, everything. And we found something you didn't know about. He had a burner phone. On that phone were messages to someone else. Someone who was supposed to help make it look like Nia's death was an accident. My blood ran cold. Who? We're still tracking that down. But Auntie O, this goes deeper than just Terrence and Simone. Someone else was involved in planning this. I closed my eyes. Deeper. It went deeper. Keep me posted, I said. And Jerome, thank you for believing us, for moving fast. She's family, he said simply. Of course I believed you. After I hung up, I sat in my car on the side of the road, watching the sun disappear below the horizon. Terrence was in jail. Nia was safe. The truth was coming out. But Jerome's words echoed in my mind. Someone else was involved. Who else had wanted my daughter dead? My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Stop digging or next time she won't survive." I stared at that message, my hand steady even as my heart raced. Someone was watching, someone knew what I was doing, and they were threatening my daughter. I looked at that message for one more second, then I took a screenshot, forwarded it to Jerome, and typed back a reply. "Try me." Then I started my car and drove home, my mind already working through the next steps. They wanted to threaten me? They had no idea who they were dealing with. I was Odessa Washington. I'd spent 33 years fighting for people who couldn't fight for themselves. I'd taken on corrupt officials, dangerous abusers, and people far more powerful than whoever was sending me threatening text messages. And I always won. Always. The threatening text message changed everything. Jerome had his tech team trace it within 2 hours. It came from a prepaid phone purchased with cash at a convenience store 3 blocks from Terrence's house. No cameras, no trail. Whoever sent it knew what they were doing. But they'd made one mistake. They'd revealed themselves. They'd shown me that there was someone else out there, someone who was scared enough of what I might find to threaten me. And scared people make mistakes. I spent Thursday and Friday gathering the rest of my evidence, making calls, and preparing for Sunday. Naya was released from the hospital on Friday afternoon with strict instructions to rest. I brought her and the kids home to my house, where they'd be safe. When 8-year-old Zara saw her mother's bruised face, she cried. 5-year-old Deshawn just held on to Nia's leg and wouldn't let go. "Mama got hurt," Naya told them gently, "but Grandma's taking care of us now. We're going to stay here for a while, okay?" "Where's Daddy?" Deshawn asked. Nia looked at me, her eyes filling with tears. I knelt down to Deshawn's level. "Your daddy made some bad choices, baby. He hurt your mama, and when grown-ups hurt people, they have to go away for a while to think about what they did. But you didn't do anything wrong, and your mama loves you so much. We all do." It wasn't the whole truth, but it was enough for now. They'd learn the rest when they were older, when they could understand. For now, they just needed to feel safe. Friday night, Calvin called me. His voice was shaking. "Mrs. Washington, I did what you said. I acted normal. And tonight Simone got a phone call. She thought I was in the shower, but I was listening. She was talking to someone about the old woman who was digging into things she shouldn't. She said they needed to handle it before Sunday." My blood ran cold. "Did you record it?" "Yes, ma'am. Every word." "Send it to me. And Calvin, get your daughters and get out of that house tonight. Go stay with your parents or a friend, somewhere Simone won't think to look, and don't tell her where you're going." "Already packed," he said. "We left an hour ago. I told her I was taking the girls to my mother's for the weekend. She seemed relieved." "Good man. Stay safe. And Calvin, be at Greater Hope Baptist on Sunday morning, 10 o'clock service. Don't be late." "Yes, ma'am." I listened to the recording he sent. Simone's voice clear as day. "That nosy old woman is going to ruin everything. Terrence told me his mother-in-law was asking questions, digging through records. We can't let her expose us before we have a chance to— No, listen, if she knows about the insurance policy, she knows everything. We need to— I don't know, you're the one who said this would be clean." And then another voice, a woman's voice, older, refined, familiar. "Calm down, Simone. I've handled situations more complicated than this. The important thing is that Terrence keeps his mouth shut. As long as he doesn't talk, there's no direct evidence linking us to the planning. It's his word against—" "What? He already talked to the police, that idiot?" I played that voice over and over, trying to place it. And then it hit me. Loretta Mitchell, Terrence's mother, my daughter's mother-in-law, the woman who'd babysat my grandchildren, who'd sat at my Thanksgiving table, who'd hugged me at my husband's funeral and told me I was like a sister to her. She'd been in on it. She'd helped plan to kill my daughter. I sat there in my dark living room, listening to that recording, and I understood. Loretta had been in financial trouble for years. I'd heard whispers about it at church. Her big house, her expensive car, her designer clothes, all of it was debt. She needed money, and Terrence had given her a way to get it. Kill Nia, split the insurance money. Problem solved. The rage that filled me then was unlike anything I'd ever felt. This woman had held my grandbabies, had kissed their cheeks and told them she loved them, all while planning to make them motherless. I called Jerome immediately, sent him the recording. "That's Loretta Mitchell," I said. "Terrence's mother."
She was part of the conspiracy. Jerome swore, something he rarely did. "Auntie O, this is now a conspiracy involving 3 people to commit murder for financial gain. We're talking multiple life sentences. I'm getting a warrant for her arrest right now." "No," I said quickly. "Not yet. Wait until Sunday, after church." "Auntie O, Jerome, trust me, please. If you arrest her now, she'll lawyer up, and we might not get everything we need. But if you wait until Sunday, I promise you, she'll confess to everything. She won't be able to help herself." He was quiet for a long moment. "What are you planning?" "Justice," I said simply. "Real justice. The kind that doesn't just lock someone up, it makes sure everyone knows exactly what they did and who they really are. This is irregular. Give me until Sunday afternoon.
If she doesn't confess by then, arrest her." "But I'm telling you, Jerome, she will. I know people like Loretta. When they're exposed in front of the community they've been lying to, they break. Pride won't let them stay quiet." He sighed. "Sunday afternoon. That's all you get. And Auntie O, be careful. If she's desperate enough to threaten you, she's desperate enough to do worse." "Let her try," I said. Saturday, I spent the day preparing. I printed more copies of the evidence. I made phone calls to people I needed at church on Sunday, people who needed to hear the truth, people who could spread it through the community faster than any news channel. I rehearsed what I was going to say, how I was going to say it. Before we continue, quick question. What would you do in this situation? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this. And I prayed. I prayed for strength, for wisdom, for the right words. I prayed that what I was about to do would bring healing, not just revenge. That it would protect other women from men like Terrence, from people like Loretta who valued money more than life. Sunday morning dawned clear and bright. I dressed in my best suit, purple, my power color. I did my makeup carefully, put on my good jewelry. I looked like I was going to testify in court. In a way, I was. Nia wanted to come, but I told her to stay home with the kids. "This isn't something they need to see," I said. "And baby, you need to rest. Let me handle this." "Mama, what are you going to do?" I smiled and kissed her forehead. "I'm going to make sure everyone knows the truth. That's all. Just the truth." Greater Hope Baptist was packed that Sunday. Word had gotten around that something big was happening. I'd made sure of it through carefully placed phone calls to the biggest gossips in the congregation. People who I knew couldn't keep a secret if their lives depended on it. I sat in my usual pew, 3rd row from the front. Calvin sat 2 rows behind me with his daughters, his face grim but determined. Loretta Mitchell sat in the front row, right side, where she always sat. She wore a cream-colored suit and a hat that probably cost more than my car payment. She looked composed, elegant, untouchable. She hadn't seen me yet. The service started normally. We sang hymns, we prayed, and then Pastor Franklin stepped up to the pulpit. "Church," he said, his voice carrying through the sanctuary. "Today we're going to talk about truth, about how the truth can be hidden, but it can never be buried, about how lies, no matter how carefully constructed, will always come to light, because God sees everything, everything." I saw Loretta shift in her seat. "We have a sister among us," Pastor Franklin continued, "who has something to share with the church. Sister Odessa Washington, would you please come forward? The church went silent. I stood up, and that's when Loretta saw me. Our eyes met, and I saw the flash of fear cross her face before she masked it with confusion. I walked to the front of the church, carrying a folder full of documents. Pastor Franklin handed me the microphone. "Good morning, church," I said, my voice steady. "Many of you know that my daughter, Nia, was hospitalized this week after a fall. At least, that's what we were told. That's what her husband, Terrence Mitchell, told everyone, that she fell down the stairs carrying laundry." I paused, looking around at the congregation. I saw people I'd known for decades, people who'd celebrated with me, mourned with me, prayed with me. "That was a lie," I said clearly. "Terrence didn't push her down the stairs by accident. He pushed her because she caught him in their bed with another woman, his brother's wife, Simone Mitchell." Gasps rippled through the church. I saw Calvin's parents in the back, their faces shocked. I saw Simone's sister stand up and then sit back down, her hand over her mouth. "But it gets worse," I continued, "because this wasn't a crime of passion. This wasn't anger or jealousy. This was premeditated attempted murder. You see, Terrence and Simone had been planning this for months. They took out a life insurance policy on my daughter without her knowledge. $500,000. They planned to kill her, make it look like an accident, take the money, and run away together." The church erupted in shocked murmurs. I held up my hand. "I have proof," I said, holding up the folder. "Emails, text messages, bank records, all of it. Terrence is currently in jail, charged with attempted murder. Simone is going to be arrested this week as an accessory." I turned to look directly at Loretta, who had gone pale. But they didn't do this alone. Someone else helped them plan it. Someone who knew about insurance fraud, who knew how to make murder look accidental, who was willing to sacrifice an innocent woman's life for money. Someone who we all trusted, who many of us considered a friend, a sister in Christ. Loretta stood up abruptly. "I don't have to listen to these lies." "Sit down, Loretta," I said, my voice hard. "Or I'll have Detective Jerome Washington, who's standing in the back of this church right now, arrest you for conspiracy to commit murder right here in front of everyone." She looked back and saw Jerome in his police uniform standing by the door. She sat down slowly, like her legs had given out. "You helped them plan it," I said, walking closer to her. "You told them how to set up the insurance policy. You told them to make it look like stairs, like an accident. You even sent me threatening text messages telling me to stop digging. And why? For money? For a cut of the insurance payout. You were willing to let my grandbabies grow up without a mother so you could pay off your credit card debt and keep living beyond your means." "No," Loretta whispered, but there was no conviction in it. "We have recordings, Loretta, of you talking to Simone, planning, strategizing, trying to figure out how to keep me quiet." I pulled out my phone and played the recording for the entire church to hear. Simone's voice. "That nosy old woman is going to ruin everything." Loretta's voice. "I've handled situations more complicated than this." The church was silent except for the sound of the recording. When it ended, Loretta was crying. I didn't think he'd actually do it," she sobbed. "I thought he was just talking, just venting. I didn't think—" "You knew," I said firmly. "You knew exactly what was happening, and you helped him do it anyway. You helped your son try to murder my daughter, the woman who gave you grandchildren, who welcomed you into her home, who trusted you with her babies." Loretta collapsed, her carefully constructed facade crumbling. "I'm sorry," she wailed. "I'm sorry, I needed the money. I was drowning in debt. And Terrence said it would be easy, that no one would know." Jerome walked down the aisle, his handcuffs already out. "Loretta Mitchell, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, attempted murder, and making terroristic threats." As he read her rights and led her out of the church in handcuffs, the congregation sat in stunned silence. Some people were crying, others looked angry, but everyone was watching. When Jerome and Loretta were gone, I turned back to face the church. "I didn't do this for revenge," I said quietly. "I did this because lies protect the guilty and hurt the innocent. I did this because my daughter deserves to hold her head up high in this community without shame, while the people who tried to kill her face the consequences of their actions. And I did this because I want every single person in this church to know, if you hurt someone I love, if you come after my family, I will find the truth, and I will make sure everyone knows it." I walked back to my seat, my legs shaking but my head held high. Pastor Franklin took the microphone again. "Church," he said, his voice heavy with emotion, "let this be a lesson to all of us. The truth will always come to light. Always. No matter how carefully we hide our sins, no matter how well we lie, God sees. And eventually, so does everyone else." After church, people came up to me, some to offer support, some to ask questions, some just to hug me. Calvin found me in the parking lot. "Mrs. Washington," he said, tears in his eyes. "Thank you. Thank you for exposing the truth. My girls, they're going to grow up knowing their father stood for what was right. You did stand for what was right, Calvin. You were brave when it would have been easier to look away." Over the next few weeks, everything fell into place. Terrence pleaded guilty to attempted murder and was sentenced to 25 years in prison. Simone was arrested and charged as an accessory. She took a plea deal and got 15 years. Loretta went to trial and was found guilty of conspiracy to commit murder. She got 20 years. The insurance company voided the policy and launched an investigation into fraud. Glenda, my attorney, filed a civil suit against all three of them. We won a judgment that would ensure Nia and the kids would be financially secure for life, taken from the assets of all three conspirators. But more important than any of that, Nia healed. Not just her body, though her bruises faded and her wrist healed. Her spirit healed. She went back to work, started therapy, began building a new life for herself and her children. She filed for divorce, and it was finalized within 6 months. And me? I learned something about myself that year. I learned that even at 72 years old, I was stronger than I'd thought, that I could still fight for the people I loved. That justice wasn't just something I'd worked for professionally all those years. It was something I carried in my bones. 6 months after that Sunday service, Nia and I sat on my porch, watching Zara and Deshawn play in the yard. The evening air was warm, filled with the sound of their laughter. "Mama," Nia said quietly, "do you ever regret it, exposing them the way you did?" I thought about that question, about Loretta crying in church, about the scandal that had rocked our community, about the whispers and the gossip and the shock. "No," I said finally. "I don't regret it, because you're here, you're alive, and those babies are playing in that yard because you're here to watch them grow up. Every single thing I did, I'd do again in a heartbeat." She leaned her head on my shoulder. "I love you, Mama." "I love you too, baby." Always. As the sun set over my front yard, painting everything gold and orange, I thought about the journey we'd been on, about how close I'd come to losing my daughter, about how rage and love had driven me to do things I'd never imagined I was capable of. But mostly, I thought about how the truth really had set us free. Not just Nia, but all of us. Calvin and his daughters. The community that had been harboring secrets and lies. Even Terrence and Loretta and Simone, in a way. Because sometimes prison is the only place where people who've done terrible things can finally face what they've become. My phone buzzed with a text from Jerome. "How's my favorite auntie doing?" I smiled and texted back, "Living my best life, baby. Living my best life." And I was. Because at 72 years old, I'd learned the most important lesson of all. You're never too old to fight for what's right. You're never too tired to protect the people you love. And you're never too late to make sure that justice, real justice, is done. Some people might call what I did revenge. but I call it something else. I call it a mother's love. And there's nothing in this world more powerful than that. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and feel free to share your story in the comments. Your voice matters.